hits for the bench. Extra attacker coming on to even things up. To the net, Albertson scores!
The Extra Attackers Podcast with Maude and Jordan.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Extra Attackers. Maude and Jordan here once again, this time in person for the first time, trying a little bit of a different recording setup. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm good, how are you, Maude?
I'm doing pretty good. We are filming this on the day that the NHL is having every single team play on Tuesday night, so it's going to be a crap ton of hockey tonight. We figured we'd get an episode out of the way before that because there's a lot of topics to go over.
Oh yeah, there's going to be even more after all 32 teams play tonight, which is kind of crazy, but it's going to be a fun night. A lot of different things to monitor in the world of hockey, which we don't get super often, so that's cool.
So hopefully our stories and takes from today don't get instantly out of date. I feel like we've picked pretty good topics for today that won't get instantly erased by what happens tonight.
I think so. It would really suck if anything just immediately reversed after we talked about it, but I feel like the stuff we'll talk about will be consistent, maybe besides like a few specific game things, but it's going to be intriguing, and we'll definitely have another show to react to everything that happens tonight as well, so keep updated, look out for that.
Yeah, so I think the first topic we want to jump into today is going to be about the Edmonton Oilers because they had the ridiculous McDavid injury where he wasn't able to finish that game against the Jets. They had to play the entirety of overtime without him, which kind of just screws over the Oilers, right? Because he's the cheat code in overtime. And it's been announced now that he's going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks. So how are you coping since McDavid is on your fantasy team?
Poorly. I picked up, I think, Eriksson Ek to replace him, and
he's actually been pretty good.
He's been good.
I have him on my other team. He has actually been surprisingly good. So
that's why I picked him up.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he'd mitigate the losses, but surprisingly, a hot take here, I don't think he's the same level as McDavid. So it's gonna hurt a little bit, but
yeah.
Oh well.
Of course, the Oilers can't replace him as easily as you can just pick up someone from waivers on your fantasy team. So it's going to be totally up to Leon Draisaitl to just carry the weight for a couple of weeks here. And I think he's done that before when McDavid has got injured, and he's kind of just shouldered the load. But it hasn't happened in a while, so especially with the Oilers' slow start, I'm interested to see how this is going to go, especially like their next 3 games. Tonight they're playing Minnesota, and then after that they have the Rangers and Calgary for that outdoor game,
right? Which,
even though Calgary is not having the best start to the season, and we'll get into that as well, those are still pretty tough opponents because, Calgary's going to bring it for that rivalry game.
I think so, yeah, and Calgary still has, I think, the mentality when they're playing games to be hard hitters, going hard on forecheck, things like that. So it's not a game that the Oilers can just skate through. They're going to have to fight back with some physicality, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll see how it goes for their goaltending, which I think has been probably the most interesting and the most horrific topic to consider, especially for Edmonton fans right now. I mean, I know what it's like to get excited about a goalie, especially someone like Stuart Skinner, who got Calder votes last year. It has not been it so far, and that's kind of been a common thing for teams. Devin Levi, also a rookie goaltender coming out of Buffalo, hasn't been the greatest start. So I don't know. Like, can the Oilers outscore their problems? Is their defense going to shore up? That's going to be interesting to follow for the next 3 games.
Yeah, that's the thing, is with the shaky goaltending and obviously the defense too at times, like just getting smoked by Philadelphia and Vancouver, that's not what you want to see from the defense and goaltending in general. So with those both being subpar, it's going to be extra difficult without McDavid. Like, it's really going to have to just be the Draisaitl one-man show. Maybe Nugent Hopkins can pick up a bit of slack too, but he's kind of the guy that was, he was a surprise 100-point scorer, but he's kind of the guy that always gets points like with Draisaitl and McDavid,
Right.
So I don't know how he's going to be able to pick up the slack. I think it's looking scary for the Oilers, I would say. Is it 1-3-1 their record right now, I think
that's it. Yeah,
and I watched that whole game against the Jets, and the only encouraging thing I would say is that they basically just got goalied. Like, it was all hellebuck.
That makes sense.
But also the Oilers didn't have the killer instinct in that game, and then without McDavid now, that's how are you going to have better killer instinct without the best player in the league?
That's true, and like, their supporting scoring has been pretty bad as well. I think Evander Kane has 1 assist in 5 games. Do you know how Hyman's doing? I didn't check that.
He scored against the Flyers, but other than that, I don't know what his point total is. I think that's his only goal.
Only goal. Okay, so I mean, you'd probably want at least 2 from him at this point.
He might have 2, not sure, but
Yeah. I mean,
either way.
still not great. It's not a great start, and it sucks because I feel like the Oilers are perpetually trying to acquire good depth scoring besides their 2-star forwards, and it always seems to fail. At least at the start of every season, like we go through this dance, like every single season, right? Like it's crazy. Like I can't believe they haven't had a good start in so long with the weapons that they have.
Like, I think Evander Kane was demoted to the 3rd line in the last game too, but then since McDavid got injured, he's right back up to the top 6. So he was like not playing well enough to even stay in the top 6, and then they have to put him back up there like right away. So that's pretty rough for the depth scoring. It's like he was on fire when he came to the Oilers. He had that amazing playoff run when they went to the 3rd round 2 years ago, I think he had that injury last year, right? The wrist injury.
Yeah,
I think that was last season. So tough to come back from that. But yeah, I feel like Evander Kane is the guy that always does really well when he shows up to the team. It was the same with the Sharks, right?
Yeah.
And then he fell off and ended up like having beef with all his teammates and stuff. So hopefully that's not going to happen again.
He made some comments though, like in one of his post-game interviews about his ice time.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, it was kind of awkward.
Oh,
He's
shit.
like, I don't know what they expect me to do when I'm barely out there. I don't think that's not a direct quote. Like I'm paraphrasing from what I remember.
But it was along those lines.
It was along those lines, and it's like, I don't know how much Jay
God.
Woodcroft is gonna want to hear that. Like,
Chaos in Edmonton. So yeah, they're going against Minnesota tonight, and this episode will be up after that. So hopefully they don't drop to 1-4-1 on the season. That would be pretty brutal.
That'd be disastrous,
That's
yeah.
getting to the point where you're in like a hole that's really hard to climb out of. But from there, I think we'll throw it to the other Alberta team. We want to talk about Rasmus Anderson's suspension, because I want to ask you what you thought of the hit and what did you think of the news today that the suspension was upheld after it was appealed.
Yeah, good questions. I honestly thought the suspension was deserved. I think the hit was bad.
Yeah.
There's 5 seconds left in the 3rd period. No reason to put your full force into a hit, especially when it's like looks purposely directed towards a player's head. Like no reason to do that. And I always thought that the NHL was too lenient a lot of the time on certain suspensions. Like it's kind of a joke that like they almost spin a wheel to determine what a suspension is going to be. There's almost no consistency between what they decide. So I liked it. I thought, hey, you're going to go hard on this player, give him 4 games, which is more than any suspension last year, I think. And I think he deserves that. And I think the fact as well that it was upheld today is deserved. I think it's a good decision by the NHL to be enforcing and strict about a suspension, because a lot of the time, like I said, it feels too light. But yeah, what do you think about it, Maude?
I pretty much agree with everything you've said there, and especially that they upheld the suspension, because I do think it's kind of weird when these guys get big suspensions and then the NHLPA, I know they're a union where they kind of have to go to bat for the players, and the player, when they get suspended, they lose out on money from the missed games, right? So the union has to have their back and be like, kind of try to argue it down, you know? But I also feel like that's kind of shitty because it's kind of ignoring the other player who was hit and injured in Patrick Laine, who is also represented by the PA. And it's just, it's the type of thing where you hit a guy really dirty and you're out for a couple games, and that guy's out for a couple months, right? Like we don't know how long Laine will be out yet, but I feel like it's kind of a shitty feeling when the PA is just like always arguing that the suspension should be less just because they have to look out for the guys who are going to lose out money, but it's like they don't really consider the guys who are actually missing out on these games due to injury.
That's true, and I think Laine was actually put on IR retroactively today, so it seems like it's going to be some time.
So it'll be at least a few weeks.
Yeah, at least, and as well, like I feel before, anytime there was an appealed suspension, it would always eliminate at least 1 game. Like there was the dialogue that, what's the reason not to appeal your suspension? Like there's literally no reason not to, because it's always going to go down. So I liked the decision, and I read a part of Gary Bettman's decision, and it was good. It made logical sense why he upheld it. So I support it 100%. I think it's the right call.
Yeah, I'm really happy they did that. And you know what that hit reminded me of? It reminded me of the Canadian Division playoffs when Scheifele ran over Jake Evans on the empty net goal. It was very similar to that because Laine was shooting at the empty net. and Rasmus was just trying to like take him out. Just even it was a little petty too, because it was a 2-goal advantage at that point too. It's not like it was still a 1-goal game, and if you stop him from hitting that shot, then you can get it back in and score. It was 5 seconds left with a 2-goal advantage, so it felt really dirty to me, also because of the context.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just like a red mist moment. And it was the same for Scheifele, right? Like they were losing the game, they're angry about it.
Yeah.
I understand that, but you have to control your emotions. Like
For sure.
This is you're playing on like concrete, right? Like this is just a flat ice surface. You have to consider the other people around you. And if you want to smash a stick, whatever, go ahead. You're not hurting anyone, but like don't put it into another player.
Yeah, for sure. And last note on Calgary, I noticed that Nazem Kadri has only 1 assist in, I think, 6 games. Because I picked him up in fantasy as like an injury replacement, because he was playing on Friday and Sunday. So I was like, oh, that's when you can fit him in. And he did jack shit. He was -4 against the Red Wings, who we will also talk about a little bit later because they're making everyone have a really bad plus-minus. But do we think Nazem Kadri is cooked? Like, what is going on with this guy?
God, that's rough. I remember I saw you drop him in fantasy.
Yeah. After those 2 games, I was like, nope, that's enough.
Exactly. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, he's not doing well, is he? And I checked and I was like, oh my God, 1 point?
Yeah, because after 2 or 3 games, like someone had him, but they dropped him after 2 or 3 games. And I was like, he had a quiet start, but I was like, oh, he'll probably pick up a couple points eventually. He got 1 assist, but then the rest of the game's just trash. So then he went right back to our waiver pool. Like, if I remember correctly, he's not playing with the best of line mates. I think Dylan Dubé was one of the wingers recently, and then I don't even remember who the left wing was. So obviously it wasn't Huberdeau, and I don't think it was Mangiapane.
It used to be Toffoli, so that's one thing that's affecting.
That's true.
It for
That's
sure.
true. Toffoli is out of there. So maybe it's just a lack of good line mates. Obviously, in Colorado, he was in a really good situation, right?
Yeah,
playing with great players the whole time.
that's why he popped off, right? Like that above 90-point season, insane. And I do think, like, in spite of all this, I think he's still a good player. But I do think this is not what's happening now, but like maybe like a 60 to 50-point season is more realistic to what he's capable of.
Because that's about what he got last year.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if he'll be able to get back to that, or if it's going to be like a quick drop off on this contract, because that's a long contract. He signed it when he was 30, and it was 7 years, right?
It's true, and I feel bad for Calgary because they really went all in with a bunch of these players. Huberdeau, Weegar, Kadri, they're all like, these are all gonna be bad contracts at the end of it. They're not gonna be good, but we're paying for that now because we should get the success now.
Exactly.
Keeping their window open a bit longer. But if they're just middling for like the next couple of years, they're kind of screwed. Like they're gonna have to either go full rebuild, and losing those contracts is gonna be tough. Like you're gonna have to probably play through them unless you get lucky or you pay out the wazoo to get them off your team, right?
Yeah, exactly. These are the years on those contracts that they want to be having the success with before it goes bad, but it seems like it might already be kind of sketchy. And it's weird too, because I feel like on paper their roster is still really good, especially the defense. But when I watch them, it doesn't really give me that feeling, especially that game against Detroit on Sunday. I had that on, and it just made me depressed for multiple reasons, mostly because of Alex DeBrincat, but it was sad to watch. The Flames looked slow, and I think Vladar was in net. He was just getting lit up. So rough stuff for the Flames, but since we're on that topic, we might as well throw it to Detroit, because they are making everyone in the league look absolutely stupid.
They are. They're on an insane tear right now, and this is not something people expected. They made some good offseason moves, obviously DeBrincat probably being the most important, and some other smaller moves like Sprong. I thought that was a good depth signing, but I didn't like their defense. I thought that
that's the thing.
Petrie and Hall, I thought that was a bad decision. And I do think that they're going to come down to earth. I do think that this is a hot start to the season that's propelled by their best players playing their best. But I think as those players play together, more teams get that video footage, like different patterns, techniques to stop them. I think their depth is going to be more exposed.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a hard start. I don't see it lasting. I don't see DeBrincat's point total and goal total lasting either. Like I think
he's gonna hit 40 though, right?
I think he has to.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think
it's gonna be back to that.
Exactly. Like the whole situation with Ottawa is rough for Sens fans, and I don't blame him. He wanted to be at home. He's definitely benefiting from being happier there. he looked awkward a lot of the time in Ottawa, even
Yeah.
in like media scrums.
You could
right?
tell that he didn't really want to be here.
Exactly.
And that happens.
It does.
I'm definitely salty about it, but on like a personal level, I can't blame the guy.
I can't blame him either. Yeah, like you get the bag, you get to be happy with your family. I will say, I think the lazy comments, bad. That like I was like beforehand, I was entirely on his side.
Me too.
I was like, you know what, this is what he wanted. But then after that, I was like, come on. And later, Ian Mendes wrote an article where he actually contacted DeBrincat, and they had an interview after like recently. And I read it, and even in that, he doesn't really back down from the lazy claims. He basically just says that, oh yeah, this isn't the wording I should have used.
Oh my god.
Like, I'm paraphrasing here, of course.
Which basically just means I should have said the same thing in a way that wouldn't make me look as bad.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that what he said was not the case, right?
Yeah. And just to finish off my thoughts on DeBrincat, Ridley Gregg's hit, completely clean.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
That's got to be one of the worst calls I've seen in the league in a long time.
Oh yeah, no, the officiating in that game was rough. And
For both teams.
For both teams, yeah. And we'll get into it later. We'll probably finish off with some Ottawa talk. But yeah, good for Detroit. I don't see it lasting, but I think the fans should be happy. Like, DeBrincat's popping off. He's happy there. Good for him.
You know, the other thing that was driving me crazy watching that game on Sunday against the Flames is, have you heard the Red Wings goal song for this season?
No, actually, I can't say I have.
So it's Eminem, which makes sense because Detroit.
Good call.
But specifically, it's the song Without Me, but not any of the good parts, right? It's the part towards the end where he's going, na 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 na. You know that part?
Oh, God, really?
They picked the most annoying part of that song, so every fucking time they scored, that was blaring in the stadium. And I have to ask, if we have any Detroit fans watching, or if they come across this clip on Twitter, do you find this annoying, or do you all like it? Because obviously I'm sure y'all like having Eminem as the hometown guy, but I feel like they could have picked a better Eminem song than that.
Oh yeah, like facts right there.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
It should have been fact. You know, the genius lyrics, stick a gerbil in your ass through a tube, would have hit so hard after a DeBrincat hat trick.
Exactly. Could you imagine
Exactly.
hearing that just to troll on other teams?
That would be so hype.
I will say though, Eminem name, still better than Hall & Notes. So.
Yeah, still better than You Make My Dreams Come True.
Exactly.
But I gotta know if Detroit fans like that, or if they find it a little bit annoying. They probably like it because it is annoying, and then the other team's fans are gonna the reaction that I have to it right now. That's what they want. That's probably why they like it.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. I think they like it. It'll get annoying, I think, when they start losing games and they score once when it's 5-0.
Yeah.
And then you hear Eminem, no.
Yeah, and then you hear his goofy ass voice.
I feel like other fan bases will start dunking on them for that, but at this point, like when you're winning, yeah, it's definitely like a troll job. If I was there, a Detroit fan, I'd definitely be like, let's go.
Yeah, especially like it bothers me with how expansive Eminem's discography is, and obviously it's hit and miss, but there's so many like actual like cool songs that they could have used.
It's true.
Or even just a different part of the same song, because Without Me is a good song, but they deliberately use the part where he's singing in an annoying ass voice on purpose at the end of the song. Like, I was thinking the other day, like I think it's from the same album, the song Business with Dr. Dre.
Oh right, I forgot about that.
It has like that. It's also a little bit annoying because it has like the siren sample in the beat. But if you used the chorus from that as the goal song, I think that would be fire. Like,
that'd be a great idea.
that would have been my pick for an Eminem goal song.
What they basically did is just like if someone sampled Stan and took the part where they drive off the bridge. I don't know
God,
why they would do it like that.
They should have put Stan as the goal song.
They really should have.
Oh my God. Or Bad Guy when he gets killed at the end.
Oh, that's a good one too. Kim.
Kim is the goal song. Oh my God.
I think what we've proven is they should have asked us to do this.
Exactly.
We would have come up with the best option.
Every team in the league needs to come to us and ask us for the goal songs. We will have the best picks for sure. But yeah, that's another little thing about Detroit that's annoying me, is that goal song. Every time I hear that, and especially just because of how many times they're making the goal song go off already this season, it's getting to me a little bit. It's driving me crazy.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I know. I feel bad because I'm an Ottawa fan. We have beef with Detroit. Right
exactly.
Now, so it's coming out a bit more.
It's big beef now.
Exactly. Like, respect it. But moving on from that to another Atlantic Division team, we have Boston. Who
this is pissing me off too. This is pissing me off.
That's crazy. Like I didn't expect this, but I know we're gonna talk about here. Their schedule has been pissy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Ridiculous. Oh my God.
It's like Chicago, Anaheim. Did they play Columbus?
So the first 7 games, if I remember correctly, one playoff team from last season, which was the Kings, who are also off to kind of a shaky start. Some good games, some bad games. Obviously, they beat them. Then they beat the Sharks, the Predators, the Ducks. Who else was it? The Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
So that's the 5. And then their next 2 games, they're going to play Chicago again tonight, and then the Ducks again. How do you get Chicago twice and the Ducks twice in the first 7 games?
I'm surprised that was
shouldn't
the
be allowed.
scheduling.
That
Yeah.
shouldn't be allowed. Like, what is that?
The league was like, we'll just give them an easy 7-0 start. pretty
Seriously,
much.
like, I feel the Bruins are obviously doing really well. Still good defense and goaltending, especially against these teams that can't score, like Anaheim. But I feel like the league is just handing them an easy cushion on the division lead.
Well, when you think about it, the best part of Boston, the part that didn't get affected at all during the offseason, very minorly maybe, was their defense and goaltending. These teams cannot score.
Exactly.
They need to score like twice, 3 times, and they're going to win these games.
All of their games have been really low scoring. I think the most goals they've scored is like 4. Maybe they had 5 once, but they're all like 3-2, 3-1 type deal with like empty nets.
Yeah.
So, and like Pasternak is doing really good. I think he's like a goal per game pace right now, but he has like half their goals because they're just having these low scoring games against bad teams.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I am hoping at least that their level of offense stays kind of that low, so that when they go against better teams, that they'll start to fall off a little bit, because we need them to fall off. We need Boston's reign of terror to finally stop. Right?
It's true. I hate how every season I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
Boston's done. Like they're not going to be awful, but they're going to be out of the playoffs. Like this is when you start to see the fall off. Even Tampa is showing more of a fall off, and they had like the best dynasty in years, right? Like it's crazy. I think they will come down to earth. Like we said, their schedule's been piss easy, but can it just happen already?
Yeah, seriously, we need to hurry up and get the Bruins out of here at this point.
Exactly. I'm sure Boston sports fans are really hurting. Over the last decade,
Yeah.
you guys have had it hard, so...
Oh my god. From there, one more Atlantic Division note. Montreal was really hurting with the injuries again. They had like by far the worst injuries last season, and it's brutal again already this year.
They've lost Kirby Dach for the entire season because of an MCL and ACL tear in his knee.
Sucks so much.
Awful. Feels so bad for the guy. Like, obviously, we're Sens fans, we're rivals with Montreal, but you never wish for injuries like this. It's super sad to see. And also, David Savard today, injured indefinitely because of an upper body injury. Last season, Montreal had the most man games lost in the entire league. I feel like it was something ridiculous, like 500 or something crazy. Like, it was a high number. And they're starting off the same way. And it's just so unlucky. And you don't want to see it. Like, I know they're not expected to sniff the playoffs. They're expected to be the worst team in this division by far. But you still want them to, like, play with their main roster. Have those players available. See the skill that's on display. Because Kirby Dach's one of their best players.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing. Like, it's sad.
It reminds me of the really dark Sens years, like after trading Carlson and stuff. There was the one year where Pajot just got completely injured in training camp, and he was out for like 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
So you have little veteran talent on the team at that point. It's similar to this, where Kirby Dach is one of the standout players, and now you just don't even get to watch him. Like, for a rebuilding team where you just want to be watching... there's a few players that you're here to watch. You're here to watch Suzuki, Caulfield, Dach, and maybe a couple other guys, and then the occasional prospect that gets called up for a few games. But now they're going to be calling up even more prospects with these guys out.
Yeah, and that's, like, even going back to when Ottawa was in more of a rebuild, the best part about watching Sens games was about watching the prospects, seeing who stood out. Like, imagine Tim Stützle in his second season lost an entire season to injury, right? Like, that would suck. So I feel for Montreal fans. Like, you still have good players to watch, of course, but really sucks that a player like that and both players are out long term. It's not what you want to see.
And from there, I think we're going to shift it over to the Metro division, because we want to talk a little bit about the Devils. You were saying that they got bag skated after a loss last week, eh?
Yeah, it seemed like it was the first official bag skate of the season. I believe they lost 4-3 to the Panthers, but they went down 4-0.
That's right.
And then came back to make it 4-3, still didn't win. So Lindy Ruff was not happy with that, which is super fair. Gave them a good back skate. And to be fair, they won the next game with Hughes scoring 4 points. But that brings up the other dilemma.
Yeah.
Their secondary scoring has not been good. Hishe has, like, what, 1 point?
I think it's
games?
0. I think he has
points.
0.
Ooh, yeah, that's bad.
And then Timo Meier was sitting on 2 assists, which he just got in the most recent game. So before that, 0 points.
That's
and
crazy.
Dawson Mercer also 0 points. I had him on one of my fantasy teams, just dropped. He was getting like not just 0 points, but like 0 shots, 0 hits, all of that. So it's
That's crazy.
Get him out of here. And it's weird because on paper, I feel like when I look at the Devils' top 6, it's like top 5 in the league for a top 6, right?
Easily, like that's what you'd expect.
But especially with Timo Meier expected to be like a 40 goal, 30 assist type guy. And Hischier also expected to be in that like 70 point range. I'm really surprised at the slow starts.
Me too. Like I thought they were gonna rocket out the gate. And I think it's kind of concerning with a player like Meier because they just signed him to a long-term extension. At least with like Hischier, Mercer. Hischier didn't play the first couple of games because he was injured, so there's a reason there. Mercer's still super young, like good reason there. Maybe it's just
he's got time to turn.
He's got time. I'm not saying that Meier is done by any stretch of like the imagination. Like he's still got talent, but like could it be shown that Meier was benefiting from a lot of extra ice time in San Jose? Like that's, I guess, the concern. So I mean, we'll see. Like it's super early in the season, still too early to tell, but it's a concerning trend to start, at least for the Devils.
Yeah, it's concerning when you've just acquired the player and it's not like an immediate amazing fit. Because Meier, I don't know how he finished off the regular season last year, but I think he only had like a few goals in the playoffs or a few points, like not lighting the world on fire. And then a slow start again this season when you've just given out a big contract like that, it's a little bit worrying. It kind of reminds me of when the Sens got Bobby Ryan, and we were all expecting like, oh, he'll play with Spezza and he'll get 40 goals right away, right? And he never really got back to that 35 goal form from Anaheim.
No,
like I'm not saying that that's gonna happen to Timo Meier, but it gives me those vibes. So hopefully not. I don't want to see that because I like the way this Devils team is built. I like a lot of their players, and I want to see them do really well. And they were my way too early Stanley Cup Finals pick for the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
When I did the last game over of the playoffs last year when the cup was handed out, me, Audie, and Steve, we did like way too early Cup Finals predictions, and I think I said Edmonton and New Jersey. It was either Edmonton or Dallas. And New Jersey. So I need New Jersey to pick it up. I need these guys to show why I think they're so good.
Yeah, they really need to pick it up and show us why they're the team that's going to make it there, right? Like right now, it's not enough. So hopefully we'll see it. Next topic, going to the Capitals, another team that's kind of struggling out the gate. They're older, so I'm not really surprised.
Yeah.
But the main thing we want to talk about, of course, is the Kuznetsov shootout attempt. If any of you have seen it, he's basically going 2 miles an hour and doing like 5 stick handles every second. And then he just shoots it in. And there's a lot of talk about like, how is a goalie supposed to save that? How do we fix that from happening? Should that be allowed? People have been saying they should introduce a shot clock into the shootout. They've also been saying get rid of the shootout, which is classic.
Yeah, probably the easiest solution.
Easiest, yeah. And I mean, what do you think, Maude? What do you think is the right thing to do there?
So it's tough. I feel like a shot clock would be pretty good because now I wish I would have like watched the clip again and seen how long it actually took him, because it must have been at least like 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing that live and I just started laughing when I saw how slow he was coming in.
It's comical.
Because we've seen players do this before, and I think I've specifically seen Kuznetsov do it before too, but I feel like that was on another level. Like I think that was the slowest anyone has ever gone, I feel like. And it's just a little bit cheap. I guess like you have played goalie in your life. Like how do you feel as a goalie about that type of tactic?
I mean, there are things that you can obviously do to counter it a little bit. Like you don't need to back up in your net as quickly. You can maybe go for a poke check and stuff. But it's still frustrating because you're basically waiting for everything to happen. And as a goalie, that's what you're supposed to do. You react to what's happening. But when a player is going so slow and not making any sort of prior movement, just going in a straight line, it's really hard to predict the play going anywhere. If a player's coming in at an angle, I can, like, as a goalie, I can be like, okay, I think the move he's going to do is cut across, shoot top left corner, something like that. But when a player is going that slow, like, the shot can come from any time. Like, especially from NHL players, right? They don't need to do a lot to get power off of their stick.
Yeah.
So they can just take one quick wrist movement that wasn't a stick handle, and it's a shot, and it's in. And it's such a quick shot that it's too quick to realize what's happening, especially since they're shooting from 5 feet in front of you, right? Like, and they're uncontested, and it's a shootout. So I feel like it's really awkward, and I feel like it gives too much of an advantage to the shooter. So it's something that I would personally want to see fixed. I'm very much of the opinion that you should extend 3-on-3 overtime to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and
that's what I
then
was going to say,
do
too.
a shootout. Yeah, I think that's most optimal. But I don't think a shot clock is bad either. Like, you could do both, right? So
You think it might be kind of a case where it's so hard for the goalies that, like, if all the shooters did that, it would just be a lot of goals, right? The goalies wouldn't be saving it too much.
Exactly. And like, I do like kind of wonder why like every player doesn't do it, but I honestly think like there's not a lot of flair to it. And it's kind of like, I mean, I get why they do it. It's a really good tactic.
Yeah.
But I feel like other players seem, and I'm just speculating, but it seems like there's more integrity in some way. Like they don't want to do that move every time. They want to kind of show off their skill in different ways.
Yeah.
Not to say that Kuznetsov is a bad person for doing this or anything like that.
He's a scumbag.
Yeah,
He embarrassed the
How
goalie.
dare he?
Like,
Yeah.
like friggin' Don Cherry on Thomas Hurdle a decade ago. It's like, he embarrassed the goalie. You can't be doing that.
It's true. Literally, whenever Trevor Zegras does anything, you'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is allowed in hockey. Look
Oh
at
my
this
god.
show off. But-
Friggin' John Tortorella on TV being like, someone should have body checked him. Someone should have cross checked him in the head.
Exactly, and it's ridiculous, but I understand why it's not popular, and I think maybe a small change like a shot clock would be a good idea. But above all, extend 3-on-3. I don't get why they haven't done this. I know it makes players tired, but then just roll more 3-on-3 lines. Like
Yeah.
you mostly just see 2 to 3 groups per 3-on-3.
Exactly. You put the
Make
same
4.
guys out there.
Exactly. Get more. I think it'd be fun to watch, and players that don't usually play on the 3-on-3 would get to play, which I think would be fun to see too.
Yeah,
So-
for sure. I think as well that 3-on-3 is often so hectic that it would be very rare to get through 10 minutes without a goal.
Very
and
rare,
and most of the time, like, the only reason it gets to a shootout is from teams playing way too cautious in 3-on-3 when they don't need to. So it's difficult because it could result in teams just doing that all the time for 10 minutes and then 3-on-3 gets really boring. But
Yeah.
I feel like we would get more games ending quicker than with the shootout.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because shootouts can drag on for a long time too. They can go like 10 rounds plus sometimes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help anyone. You probably would get a goal quicker with just longer 3-on-3. The longer that people are out there for 3-on-3 as well, they're going to be more tired, be more prone to making mistakes too, so you'll get the goals quicker.
Exactly. And I agree with the classical argument against the shootout, which is it's not representative of the rest of the game. At least with 3-on-3, you can have some sort of momentum being carried.
Yeah.
It is still very luck dependent, like obviously. But it's more reflective of how each team is actually playing instead of an individual competition.
For sure.
So I think in that way it works best.
So yeah, Kuznetsov sucks for doing that. we hate
Terrible
Evgeny
player.
Kuznetsov. But nah. From there, I think the last topic we're going to get into is Cale Makar with an awesome milestone, reaching 250 points in his career faster than Bobby Orr, which I couldn't believe.
I couldn't believe that either.
Yeah.
I was really surprised. I didn't think that would ever be done just because Orr is like he played in an era where scoring was so much more prominent, right? Like
I want to see the Bobby Orr hockey DB now.
Good call. I'm curious about this too, actually.
Yeah, so I guess the first couple of seasons of Bobby Orr's career before he really popped off, like he got in his 4th season he got 120 points, which is like way past the Cale Makar level. But for his first few years, it was still really good point totals, like close to point per game, but not quite. And Cale Makar has been like pretty consistently point per game, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has been. Obviously not any 100-point seasons, but pretty consistently.
Yeah, 50 points in 57 games, and then 44 and 44. And then he starts going above point per game the last 2 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
It really sucked that he was injured last year because I think he would have been like very close to Erik Karlsson around that 100-point mark. Like
I think so.
His points pace was a little bit less, but I think it would have been close. It would have been a cool Norris race. So yeah, 252 points in 243 games for Cale Makar as we're recording this, which is just amazing.
That's insane. Like he's clearly the best defenseman in the NHL right now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. My bias is showing. We'll see if Jake Sanderson
Oh my God.
challenges it. But yeah, he's the best defenseman in the NHL right now. And it's watching him play. He's so agile. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like I feel like I could make the NHL if I had an ounce of his talent. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, you can be half as good as Cale Makar, and you'll be like a beast top 4 defenseman.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's true, right? So
I remember the last episode we were talking about that game where Mackenzie Blackwood made like 50 saves. It was against the Avalanche, and just the goal that they finally got by him in the last minute of play, Makar just absolutely controlling the ozone play with his skating. And the way that he got his shot through from the point, kind of as he was circling around at the top of the faceoff dots, and he timed his shot so perfectly, right as the bodies were lining up in front of the goalie, right into the top corner, so Blackwood had no chance. That's the type of thing that just makes me say, wow, with Cale Makar.
Yeah, no, same here. Like, it's just, he's a circus act to watch.
He sees the game on another level.
Exactly. He's got that ability like McDavid, where he just needs another layer to it.
Yeah.
And
It's like McDavid on defense.
exactly. No, it's crazy. But moving on, I guess, to the very last topic, just briefly touching on the Sens.
Yeah.
They lose on Saturday, unfortunately, to Detroit. That was
Roasted by the Red Wings.
roasted, yeah. But granted, like, just quickly discussing it, I don't really think, I honestly thought the Sens dominated that game for the most part when it was 5-on-5. I think if there was less special teams, the Sens probably would have won. But what can you do? It happens, and tonight they're going up against Buffalo. So we'll see what they can do. We need more from the top line. Stützle has to be better. Drew has to be better. Kachuk has been pretty decent. I can't really complain, but really they just need more offensive firepower, and we'll see how it happens tonight.
Yeah, so of course, recording this before that game, it starts in about an hour now. We are going to be doing the game over reaction after the show, both of us. So that's going to be interesting. If you are watching this episode after and you don't see that and you want to see us probably either rage about a loss or be happy about a Sens win, you can go check that out over on the SDPN YouTube channel, Game Over Ottawa. We will, if you enjoyed that, we will be doing another show there. It will have already been live before this episode goes up, but if you haven't seen it, that's some additional content from us.
Yeah, the VOD will be there, so we'll be there if you want to hear us rant about whatever happens.
Hopefully we don't have to rant too much. Hopefully it can be better than the last show I did.
I'm hoping it's enjoyable. Do you remember a record on game overs? Is it like 1 and 2?
Okay, so I think it's 1 and 2 because we did the second game of the year against Toronto, which was a 3-2 loss. That one was really close. Then we did a win against the Kings. I remember it was that overtime goal by Giroux.
Oh, that insane pass by Stützle. I remember that. The vibes were high, and then
that one was a really fun show to do.
Yeah, that was a great show, especially in contrast to 5-0 Chicago.
Oh, that's the big one. That was the last one that we did. So we need it's a low bar to clear.
It is a very low bar. Let's go 500, please. Let's make it 2 and 2.
Yeah, at least get to 500. So nervous about the Sens, but lots of fun storylines around the league, and I've really been enjoying getting to talk about them with you on this show here.
Yeah, it's been fun, Maude. It's nice to do it in person, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a good vibe.
Yeah, I think so too. But of course, thank you everyone for watching. If you have any pointers for us or have any questions, you can of course comment. We have our socials listed. Maude is at Maude's Show on X, and then I'm at Santa Stützle.
It's
Twitter.
Twitter.
Sorry, I should just call it Twitter. The fact that it's X is stupid.
Yeah.
So on Twitter, and then you have at Extra Attackers if you want to get the podcast Twitter account. So yeah, hit us up on there if you want to get to know us a bit more.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching or listening.
Yep. Take care, guys.